Your research institution.
Tell us a little bit about that school, why it was so special to you.
It was special to me because my dissertation was research driven, and I like to have things really coming together. So when you're doing research and you are starting off trying to prove or disprove something, you certainly have more reliability and validity,
More credibility.
credibility too, as you do this. So I like the research aspect of education.
Were you raised in any religion, and if so, which?
My grandmother always took me to church, which was a Baptist church, or old time Baptist church. But I converted to Catholicism when I was young, and I remained in the religion, Catholic religion, until about 5 years ago. And my husband and I joined a born again Christian church. And about the last I guess, 3 months, we have gone to a Baptist church. So I have made a full turn back to Catholic, to the Baptist church.
What inspired you originally to become an educator? Why did that attract you?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I became an educator because I wanted to be a secretary. And I was taking secretarial courses in high school till my mother found out. And my mother wanted me to be in the college preparatory program. So I was told at that time I would do better if indeed I went into the college prep program. And then I could become a teacher if I wanted to. And I still could become a secretary if I wanted to. So I received a dual degree in my undergraduate years. I received a business administration degree as well as an education degree. And I kind of was pushed into education, but I really have enjoyed it over the years.
What do you enjoy most about it?
I enjoy working with students. I've taught preschool all the way to the university level. And I like interacting with students. I like the challenge. It's always a challenge because the little ones have difficulties in picking up academic skills, and the university ones think they know it all, and I have to kind of pull them down a peg.
Rather sophomoric.
Yes, yes.
You started an organization to raise money to pay for children's textbooks. Please tell us what inspired you to do that. Why do you care if someone else's kid has money to pay for their textbooks?
Textbooks are extremely pricey. So oftentimes students just don't have the money to buy multiple textbooks. So I was teaching at a college in Illinois, and some of my students did not have the textbook, and we were already into our third week of the course. So I would have to let them use my teacher's edition. And then I thought later on, why am I not doing something to assist these students so that they can have their textbooks and keep up with what we're doing? So I started the Dr. Teddy B.O. Santowski Textbook Fund through Prairie State College in Illinois.
And where does it get its money from?
I was able to seed it with the first 5,000, and then
Of your own funds?
of my own funds, and I now make sure that I put in enough each year.
So it's really you're funding it. You're not out pounding the stump to get other people to do that.
Well, whenever something has happened in my life where you ask people to, for instance, the death of my mother and the death of my father, in lieu of flowers, you always put, please contribute to the Dr. Teddy B.L. Santowski Textbook Fund. And I haven't had a lot of success with that. So I will get maybe 3 or 4 donations per death in my family.
I noticed that you're very focused on substance and child abuse.
Yes.
First of all, how are those two connected? And why is that important to you?
Well, first let me say that I was an abused child from ages 5 on. It was very important for me to write a book on my experiences called The Little Survivor. It was a cathartic process of trying to deal with what had happened to me. And since that time, I've always been interested in any kind of abuse. Also, when I was in Illinois, the senior judge asked me to head up a committee for substance abuse and as well as abuse in the home, which I did, and there were about 34 people on my committee, which included the ministers, the doctors, attorneys, and those kinds of people in my community.
Were they already on the committee when the judge asked you to join it, or did you have to round them up?
I had to round them up.
And what did you do to round them up?
I went to different persons who knew of other persons who would be interested, and I put the word out, so to speak, and they all came. And there was a little blurb in the newspaper, in the local newspaper, in reference to the judge who was starting this program with me as the chair.
Of all the people he could have picked, why did he pick you in particular?
It was a female judge.
She, pardon my sexism.
And she picked me because she knew of my background through a personal friend of hers. And that's how I came to chair that large committee.
How would you say drug abuse and domestic violence are interconnected? Is there some connection, and if so, what is it?
I feel that definitely there's a connection. If you talk about substance, you're talking about the so-called hard drugs as well as alcohol. And certainly when there's alcohol, there, in most cases that I'm familiar with, there has been abuse. So I see that they're connected in all the experiences that I've had and the research that I've looked at.
So that they were connected in your own childhood experience as well?
No. I did not have any kind of substance abuse.
I mean your father. Father.
No. My father was not an alcoholic, nor was my mother.
Okay.
My mother had a dislike for me, and therefore she abused me both verbally and emotionally.
What can we as a society do to diminish the impact of both substance abuse and domestic abuse?
In my years with the committee that I headed up on substance abuse and family abuse, I find that really there's very little cooperation from the abuser. So you have to look at the victim. And I feel that if we could provide enough education for the victim so that they know there are places they could go, such as the halfway house, or if they will just tell somebody who will help them be able to leave that person, the abuser, behind. That to me is the key, because women, the many women that I've talked with when I did head up the committee would always say that they could not take care of themselves. They had no jobs, and if they left the abuser, they couldn't take care of their kids. So if we provide those halfway houses and other sites for them to go where they are safe, I believe that's going to take care of a lot of the people who are being abused. A lot of the, I think the statistics will kind of be impacted by it.
If a woman raises her hand today and says, I want help for me and my 3 kids today, there's a place for her to go in pretty much every metropolitan area?
Yes, there are. But women are still afraid. They need to be talked to one-on-one and encouraged to go to these sites and stay there until they can normalize their existence.
What were you going to say before I interrupted you?
I was going to say that the abuser, it's really hard dealing with them. And I've talked to some of the facility managers, and they agree with me. It's hard to get them to accept that they're doing something wrong.
They think it's okay that they hit
think
their
it's
wife.
okay. They have their power. It gives them a sense of power, and they continue to do it. But I have said to some of the ladies whom I have interacted with in these who head up these homes, I've said, why can't we give them more psychological help? And they tell me that the abuser just won't agree to it. So basically, what I see, the abuser does not want to change. They want to continue doing.
It's working for them.
Yes, it feels good for them. They've got power. I was married before when I was 22 years old, and I know what spousal abuse is. I was beaten every day. I was disrespected every day. But the difference between me and the women out there that don't seek help, I got tired of it. And I thought to myself, I'm a teacher. I've got an income. I have no children. There's nothing holding me here. And I walked out.
So, how long did you stay in that situation?
14 months.
And it was just your ability to
it was my
sustain
mindset.
yourself.
It was my mindset. I knew that I had a job, a good job, and that I didn't have a lot of financial responsibility. And I also knew that I could go back home to my parents until I could manage to take another road in my life. And that's what I did. So I had options. I might have had more options than most women, but at least I had that resolve to say enough is enough. I'm working quite a bit in other organizations.
Tell us about that.
Well, first, the mayor of Henderson, of course, is where I live, appointed me to the Blue Ribbon Commission. So I have a lot of work that I do for that. Our main focus is on helping the students become a part of become a part of our community by doing services. So we have something called College Nights, and I started that myself 3 years ago so that our students would be aware of all of the factors and the procedure for getting into college and finding scholarship money. And also we do a tree planting every spring, so we have one that's coming up. And also we do Make a Difference Day. And that's pretty big. We pull students from all the high schools in the Henderson area. That's, as I said before, through the mayor here at Henderson. Also, I'm on the Achievement Academy board, and we're the first school in the state of Nevada that addresses the needs of the high-function autistic children.
What kind of needs do they have that sets them apart?
If they were in regular education, the teacher or the curriculum misses what they need. They need a lot of social interaction skills. They need to understand how to interact with people. That's their basic problem, and the schools don't address that because of the way the curriculum is established.
Is that true even for those kids who are mainstreamed but have a one-on-one?
Yes, that's still, you see, the curriculum of regular education does not give time for the repetitiveness that you have to have with these autistic children. And since they don't fit in, well, hey, they have a minuscule contact with the curriculum, and that's it. Also, I'm chairperson of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. I'm the education chair, and we are having on November 5th a workshop on the rights of students in special education. The 100 Black Women has 3 main areas of community service: health, education, and political. And my segment, as I said before, is is education. One thing that we did that we're also very proud of, there's a school in West Las Vegas that was on the watch list, had been on the watch list for 2 years, 2 or 3 years.
The federal one.
The watch list here through Clark County School District.
Okay.
So I decided that I would use my phonics program to teach the teachers at that school so that they could use phonics in teaching reading. And that's what we did. And the scores went up, and now that school is no longer on the watch list. They have made Safe Harbor. And that was through the 100 Black Women promoting the program with a little bit of money. They purchased breakfasts and lunches for the students. And anytime I needed materials to use with the teachers, they were able to refund me for any amount that I had spent. So, and we were all pretty proud of that because it's not every day that you can turn a school around.
Tell us what a little bit about the other two areas of 100 Black Women, please.
Well, our main focus health-wise is AIDS. And there's a rampant epidemic of older African American women contacting the HIV virus. So we work, when I say we...
Many of them are contacting it in relationships that they thought were monogamous.
Yes. And our job is to make sure that they have the information that they need so that they can make a choice as to whether they want to do this or not. So many of the women are not aware that they are subjected to
that they're
AIDS.
at risk.
Yes, that they're at risk, that they're subjected to AIDS or the HIV virus when they have these relationships. But we feel that with the information that we give out, and we have workshops for that, and printed materials, and we go to different conferences and have a table, and we share all of this information with the attendees at the conferences.
And the political action arm.
We are trying to have our members become interested in politics and become actual politicians. And they in turn...
You mean run for elective office?
Yes. And when they